Last month, the longest government shutdown in U.S. history came to an end. For 43 days, all non-essential federal services were halted. Tens of thousands of essential employees, like air traffic controllers, worked without pay. Making matters worse, about 1 in 8 Americans was at risk of going hungry. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, known as SNAP, had a severe funding shortfall that couldn't be dealt with until the government reopened. While a judge ordered the government to provide the necessary funding, state agencies still struggled to distribute payments amid the chaos. For people like Jessica Bollinger, a case manager at a homeless shelter in North Carolina, this meant seeing benefits suddenly cut in half.
With me and my 2 children, we were receiving $318, $317, something like that. And I would typically get meats and vegetables with that. With my daughter being over 5, I don't receive WIC or anything. I never really received WIC. I didn't apply for it. Knowing that I could get it, I didn't. But so, just buying the meats and healthy snacks and things like that for my children. So with the government shutdown, I received, I think it was $98 this past Friday. And so that's gone. I went ahead and got meats for the next 2 weeks so that we can have dinner every night. And then juice and water is what I stocked up on this past weekend.
Bollinger also shifted money she'd typically use for other bills like rent and electricity to cover groceries. Luckily, her landlord agreed to let her pay half of her rent at the beginning of November and the other half at the end of the month. For her and many other single parents across the country, SNAP makes it possible to hold down a job, pay rent, and provide healthy, nutritious meals for children.
With being a single mother and making a living and paying all our bills, so the food's nutrition benefits really help out whenever it's a single household. I know in my experience, that's been a lifesaver at many times.
And she's not the only one to feel this way. Throughout the shutdown, millions of families like hers were forced to make the same difficult choices. And these are hardworking Americans, many of which work full-time jobs. In fact, according to Gina Platanino, SNAP director at the Food Research and Action Center, the majority of SNAP recipients are children, people with disabilities, and adults who fall below the poverty line.
There's over 42 million Americans who are on SNAP. Majority of SNAP users are children, followed by older adults, followed by people with disability. The main reason that people enter the SNAP program for a temporary time is because they have lost their jobs, their wages have been reduced, or they have a family member to take care of. Most people have a household member that is working. They are just not making enough, particularly when you look at families with children. These households are making less than $1,100 a month, right? In order for you to be eligible for SNAP, you have to be within very low levels of the poverty level. These are individuals who are incredibly vulnerable and who at a time need to depend on this benefit in order for them to be able to meet their basic needs. Because when you are paying 70 to 80% of your income on shelter expenses, it leaves very little money for all the other things that you must take care of.
Platanino says there are often misconceptions about who receives SNAP benefits and why. To qualify for the program in the first place, applicants must pass a lengthy screening process. If approved, there are strict rules dictating what the funds can be used for.
It is a very rigorous process to apply for SNAP. People do a very lengthy application, followed by an interview, followed by a requirement of proving the information that you have given. Once all of that is verified, individuals are giving their benefit amount, which is less than $6 a day. Most people don't get the maximum amount. On average, 60% do not. And that benefit is put in something called an EBT card. The card is like a debit card where individuals can utilize it at participating retailers. Not at every store. The retailer has to be participating, and we have about 260,000 retailers across the U.S. Those cards can only be utilized when funds have been placed there by the government and can only be utilized to purchase foods. No hygiene products, no baby diapers, nothing, just food.
Unfortunately, many people don't fully understand how SNAP works, and Bollinger has witnessed this firsthand. In her experience, some have assumed recipients use their benefits to buy junk food and other non-essential items.
Misconceptions. I mean, I've heard that people use it to buy sodas and candy. And the main thing that I depend on when I do have foods and nutrition benefits is I depend on that to buy my child's birthday cake. Like, that's going to be for a lot of low income families, is they really depend on the foods and nutrition to buy their cakes for their children for their birthdays.
Another misconception Bollinger hears is that SNAP recipients sell their benefits for profit. Not only has she never heard of anyone doing this, but it's illegal and would result in disqualification from the program. And for her, this program means much more than putting food on the table. It's also given her kids typical childhood experiences and memories. Before the shutdown ended, she was especially worried about how it would affect this year's Thanksgiving and Christmas.
The kids, they'll get picky and they just want pizza. So it's something that we do and have fun, like making the pizza. And so I don't buy the frozen pizzas. We buy the dough and we buy the cheese and the pepperonis and we make our own dough. It's a bag of dough. You just add water to it. But it's just something fun that we do as a family. Cookies at Christmas time, Easter, and then especially November. November is kind of a hard month not to get your foods and nutrition benefits because we're going to have a bunch of people that's relying on that for Thanksgiving dinner. So that's when using the food banks and utilizing church community is going to play a big hand in that this month.
And food banks did play a huge role in helping families get through the shutdown. However, Platanino notes that for every meal a food pantry provides, SNAP provides 9 meals. Given the program's reach, she says it's necessary that SNAP remains supported and fully funded. And research shows that when it does more than just temporarily ease hunger. It strengthens local economies, uplifts communities, and sets children up for greater success.
SNAP brings triple the money into the local economies, up to $1.80, right? If it wasn't for these individuals utilizing SNAP and utilizing in their local retailers, many of these local retailers will go under. That money translates into people being hired because, cashiers, delivery trucks, property taxes. It brings into the national economy over $100 billion. People on SNAP are less likely to go to the ER, are less likely to be long-term hospitalized. Children who receive SNAP benefits are less likely as adults to need these services and are more likely to graduate. Moms who have this program are less likely to suffer from depression, have better birth outcomes, have better resiliency in terms of dietary diseases. And the biggest, I think, myth or lack of understanding is that if individuals were being paid enough livable wages, we wouldn't be in this situation.
For Bollinger, she not only works full-time, but her job is dedicated to supporting unhoused people in her community. If people doing this critical work can't afford to eat, what does that say about our country's future?
People should not be politicized. People are not chess pieces. They deserve the benefits that they're entitled to receive. So the best thing that people can do is just keep calling out how incredibly important this program is to the livelihoods, to the economy, to our communities, and that it should be protected.
Though the government shutdown has ended, it will take time for all 42 million SNAP recipients to receive their benefits. To learn more about this topic and our guests, Jessica Bollinger and Gina Platanino, visit viewpointsradio.org. For more behind the scenes, check out Viewpoints Radio on X, Facebook, and Instagram. This segment was written and produced by Grace Galante. Our executive producer is Amira Zaveri. Studio production by Jason Dickey. I'm Gary Price.